welcome to Trust the Effing podcast. Today, Jen and I chat about our first spiritual awakening experiences, those moments that occurred that caused us to go, whoa, something bigger is going on here. So grab a cup of tea, get comfy, and perhaps by the end of this episode, you'll be ready to share some of your spiritual experiences as well. We look forward to hearing them. Hey Jen, how's it going today?
Hey, Rebecca. Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to be back here for episode 2.
Here we are. We brought up the idea on last week's podcast episode about our first spiritual experience, or kind of the beginning of our awakening, or best that we could remember, something that might have happened that sparked our interest in starting our journey. And I just want to dive into that today. So I'm going to ask you, put you on the spot. Do you remember what was your first idea that there was a bigger picture, that there was a grander project going on? What was your first spiritual experience?
I'm just going to start with my childhood. I didn't grow up religious at all. I didn't go to church. I wasn't baptized. My parents usually took us into nature on Sundays. That was kind of our church, I guess. So I didn't grow up with any spirituality, almost none, other than when I was my early years, we read the Bible in school, but then they took that out of the public school system in Canada when I was in grade 1 or something, grade 2 maybe. And yeah, I didn't have a lot of I just didn't really think about it much for a long time. And then when my grandfather passed away, I was probably maybe grade 7 or something. How old are you in grade 7? 12, 13? Something like that. And I remember he had been living in a senior's residence, or where he could get extra care. And he got up to go for, the story goes, as I was told, that he was a very proud man and a very polite man, and kind of prim and proper. He was born in the early 1900s, 1906 or something. And anyway, so he got up to go for dinner, and he started thanking all the staff. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks for, looking after me. And he sat down at his place at the dinner table, and he passed over just like that. So there was a sense that he knew that he was about to do that. And so I think for me, that was the first time that I remember thinking, how did he know that? What, and, starting to think about those ideas. And then I got really into, I was a reader. I used to love reading. And I started finding books on life after death experiences, especially ones that children had, because how can a child make that up, right? So I remember kind of exploring those concepts and being really in awe of it, really interested in it, really amazed in it. And then, I don't know, I think just stuff I went through trauma-wise, I just kind of stopped anything to do with spirituality or religious for a long time. Even when I was sick, even I didn't have anyone I prayed to. I didn't have any connection at all. And then I don't know what the big catalyst was. I just started seeing number sequences everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just in my 30s. I remember seeing them when I was younger, but then it was I guess this is where I'll go back to. So I won a contest. I was at a bar with my friends. They were hosting an event, and I put my name in a draw, and I won a trip to Costa Rica. And it was very exciting. I hadn't been able to travel for many years, and I was couldn't believe this was finally happening, and I was going to get to go. And however many months later, I went on that trip, and that must have been the catalyst in some ways. It did wake me up. It made me realize I didn't like the life I was living. I wasn't
Mhm.
satisfied with it. I wanted to be healthier. I'd always imagined myself with this active, healthy lifestyle. And I saw people doing that in Costa Rica. And I was like, yeah, that's me. I got lost. I want to come back to being, because when I was younger, I was very, again, nature. That was my church, right? We were always hiking, and I was always involved in active things, especially outside. And so I wanted to get back to that. And so I decided I was going to move here. And once I decided I was going to move here, I decided I needed to be healthy enough to live the life I wanted to live. So I started changing my diet and just
Mhm.
like, I wouldn't say doing hardcore cleanses, but like cutting out some things, habits that I knew. I used to smoke cigarettes and, things that I was like, that can't happen anymore. And as I did that and started getting healthier, that's when I started to see the number sequences everywhere. And I'd started doing a lot of hot yoga because it was winter time at that time. So just, I think, moving my body and connecting, because yoga is a way to reconnect our kind of mind, body, soul, all three. A lot of us have been just living in the mind. We're not paying attention to the body, and we're not, a lot of us, even connected to our own spirit. Or at least I wasn't. I was just living in that, mind space. And then the numbers were everywhere. Like, I literally thought I was losing my mind. Like, what is this even real? Like, I'd be sitting on I used to live in Toronto, and I'd be sitting on the streetcar, and all of a sudden I would just glance up out the window, and the address on the house would be 1111. And then my
Mhm.
phone would beep with a message, and I would pick up my phone, and it would be 1111. And I'd go to the store and I'd buy something, and I'd see it come up on the cash register, 1111. And I was like, am I having a mental breakdown? Literally, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
So I Googled it, and apparently millions of people are seeing 1111 and all these other repeating number sequences, and they were calling them angel numbers. So
Mhm.
then I was like, angel numbers, again, not religious. Angels are like just on a Christmas tree for me, or singing carols or something. So I was like, Google angel numbers. And this book came up by an author called Doreen Virtue. And it was like, I don't know what the book was called. Maybe it was called Angel Numbers, or like, it was like Archangels 101. Like, you could get all these books out that she wrote. So my library was right around the corner. So I reserved them, and I went and
Mhm.
I got these books, and I was like, all right. So then it all happened really fast, by the way. Like, this is all within a few days, that I'm like, in a week, I'm like, this is getting crazy. What's going on? Like, what? Like, am I literally living in another universe or something? Like,
Mhm.
I don't, I'm asking people, and I'm like, you guys see 1111 and stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, you make a wish. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I always did too. But like, I'm seeing it like all the, like this. And I'm telling them, they're like, whoa, that is kind of freaky. But no one around me like knows more than that. So
Mhm.
I go to my cottage for a weekend, and I bring a bunch of friends. And I remember I was already feeling different. Like, I didn't want to have the same conversations. I didn't want to drink as much as we used to drink, or like, I don't know. I just felt different. And I
Mhm.
remember going down to the dock with my book. No one was down there at that point. And I'm bringing and I also wasn't sure if I wanted to tell everyone, like, I'm reading these angel books. Like, this is so new to me. People around me, we don't usually have these conversations. And so I'm lying on my dock, and I'm reading this, like, Archangel 101 or whatever the name of the book was. And it says, you can we all have an archangel, and you can talk to them, and you can ask them what their name is. So I'm like, okay. So I put the book down for a sec, and I'm like, in my head, I don't even want to say it out loud in case somebody hears me. Okay, archangel, what's your name? And right away I hear Raphael, and I'm like, oh my god, I have a ninja turtle for a spirit guide.
Yeah,
I'm
where's
literally
Donatello and
laughing.
Michelangelo?
Yeah, I don't even know that this is like, I didn't even know that these are like arcane. Like, I don't know anything about, I wasn't religious. And
Mhm.
so then so I'm laughing. I'm like, this is funny. I open the book again. I turn the page, and the chapter's Archangel Raphael. And I was just like, whoa.
Whoa.
So these coincidences just started going, like, and now I call them synchronicities.
Yes.
because they're not coincidences. They're the universe and me becoming in alignment as one, right? And we're starting to notice that, now I understand, like, that's me connecting with the universe, and I can now receive messages and guidance and
Mhm.
this bigger picture. But that was the beginning of me doing it, and I did not know what was going on at all, and I just got super curious, and then I just kept continuing to want to research more and learn more. And that's all. I didn't want to have these other conversations with people anymore. I was like done with the life I'd been living, kind of thing. It was really strange. Did you experience anything like that?
Oh my goodness. I was almost thinking how similar my story, I mean, with, clear differences, but the timeline of things, how similar it seems because, um, well, I remember, I guess I grew up differently though. I grew up in the church. I was baptized Lutheran and raised Methodist and went to church every week with my parents and attended the youth groups. And it wasn't like staunch religion, but God was a part of my life and a part of our household. And so for several years growing up that way until I was a teen, and then going to church kind of fell away in my family. And I wouldn't say that I stopped believing that there was a higher power. I just didn't necessarily believe that it was a man. I just was like, it doesn't make sense to me that, there's like just a male God, overseeing and ruling and manipulating things for us. There's something more out there. I believe that, but I couldn't decide what it was when I was young. So, going through my adult years, I was the party girl. I was, whooping it up in my life and having a good time, and spirituality wasn't a part of my early adult years. And then I got into law enforcement, and I definitely can tell you that there was plenty of occasions working as a police officer that I would pray to God, some very intense, critical situations and frightening calls that I would be on. And I just would pray, that everybody came out safely, that I got to go home that night, that I got to go home and see my family. And definitely felt this feeling of protection, especially some of the situations that I was in. I always had this feeling that something was looking out for me, that I was protected, but couldn't explain it other than that. So I get into the state police and I move up to the Adirondacks here. And some years go by, and I'm working in law enforcement, and there's this time period that came up for me where I just started thinking it always feels the same. It feels like Groundhog Day. I'm always seeing the same people. I'm arresting the same people. I'm dealing with the same stuff every day. And what is it all for? What's the purpose of this? I started asking the big questions. What is my purpose? What is the purpose of me doing this job? What is the purpose of this life? What is the purpose of all these situations that I get involved in? What is this? You know? And quickly after I arrived to that line of questioning, somebody else on the job that I worked closely with was going through a spiritual awakening. And this guy was already reading like Neville Goddard books and was sharing them, openly in the station. And people thought he'd lost his mind. People were calling him crazy. What do you mean we're all creators? You're full of shit, like what are you even smoking? And he's like, no, listen, this is real. That we're all creators. We're all creating this life. And so then I started to listen to a little bit of Neville Goddard on YouTube. I'd find a video or two and listen. And my friend there on the job ended up giving me a CD, Louise Hay, 101
Mhm.
Power Thoughts. That was it. Those, if you've never heard of Louise Hay, she's like the grandmother of metaphysics. And she passed away some years ago, I want to say in the early 2000s. But she had these great affirmations that she would publish in the form of CDs and in her books and stuff like that. And the idea was, when you adopt these affirmations into your life, take them into your heart and feel them, you can truly change your life. And that CD, I think I wore that out and had to buy another one, because it was really altering the way that I thought about my thoughts. Like, it helped me watch my thoughts better and see how the thoughts that I would think would lead to certain behaviors and actions. And once I adopted these affirmations into my life, I could see how they were benefiting me. I could see how my life would take turns in a more positive way when I would latch onto that. So that was really eye-opening to me. And from then on, I just started devouring books upon books, about spiritual concepts, esoteric ideas, metaphysics, different facets of spiritual beliefs and stuff like that. And like books about the bigger picture and what we're all here to do. And now I have this huge library of books that I've read, between Audible, audio books and physical copies of books. Just incredible. And so it's been a slow evolution. I would say that it started back in, like, I don't know, 2011, 2012, I think, was that first spark, where this other coworker was waking up and kind of shook me. And ever since then, it's just, there's so many other synchronicities. Yeah, like you said, it's not coincidences. There's other synchronicities. I remember seeing 1111 and 333 a lot, and diving into what's going on when I'm seeing those numbers. What's happening? What are those numbers reflecting back to me? And having an instance a few years back with an angel that spoke to me when I was waking up. One funny thing that was happening to me, I would wake up in the morning with a song in my mind. You ever do that? So I
Yeah,
kept
sometimes.
waking up. Yeah. So I kept waking up in the mornings with a song on my mind, and I would never understand. Well, I know I didn't hear this song yesterday, or when I was falling asleep last night, like, where did this song come from? There was a message somewhere for me. And I remember asking as I was waking, where did this song come from? Not thinking I would get an answer. I wasn't yet that in tune, but the word showed across the screen of my mind, cellophile. And I'm like, that's so weird. And I'm groggy coming out of sleep. And what is this name? What is this word, cellophile? What does that mean? And I had to do some research. Ended up finding out cellophile is one of the archangels, and he is an archangel of music. And he had been communicating me with these songs.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that was never an angel name that I had ever heard. Not that I had even studied the angels. It wasn't an area of interest for me at all. But that sparked me also going and getting a Doreen Virtue book, finding one at my local thrift store, and starting to dive into angels and messages from angels and stuff. So yeah, I feel like I vibe with your story in many ways.
Wow. Just incredible. And I mean, it's interesting. We were both in that wave that kind of woke up in 2011 and 2012. And
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you feel called to, please leave us a comment or review on the platform you heard us on today, or send us an email at trusttheeffingpodcast@gmail.com. If you're looking for additional support in your awakening journey or an intuitive reading from Rebecca, you can find her on social media at Trust the Effing Process. If you're a woman looking for holistic health and weight loss support and would like a consultation with me, Jennifer, you can find me on social media at Jennifer Fleischman _health coach, or email me at jennifer@jenniferfleischman.com. And of course, we're going to link all this information in the show notes for you, so you can just check that out. Always know that you are exactly where you should be at any given moment in your life, and everything is unfolding as it should be. So please remember to
Trust the Effing Podcast.